Hey guys, what is up? It is your friendly neighborhood Ubers here, back again with another Isaac Breaking Run. This time, I'm so sorry. We're starting with Ipecac. Why am I apologizing? This is a great, momentous occasion. I never start with Ipecac. I love Ipecac. So let's do this shit. Let's have some fun. So in the last video, when I had no topic at all to talk about, I did mention that somebody recommended a movie for me to watch. The person was Starlight. Starlight Vidya, I guess, was the Twitter name. Thank you for the movie recommendation of After the Dark. It's a very interesting kind of thought experiment sort of movie thing. So it's a philosophical thought experiment that is like, you know, the people in the movie are in a philosophy class, and it's their job at this point to tackle this thought experiment that the teacher has created. And the general idea behind the thought experiment is that it is the apocalypse, right? Huge apocalyptic cataclysmic event. Everyone's gonna fucking die, right? But they have a bunker. I'm very upset that that's not the super secret room. I guess it's here. They have a bunker. They have resources that they can use to last 1 year in the bunker. For 10 people, the class is like, what, 20 people or so? And they need to figure out who, because after this cataclysmic event, there are, you know, so many other bunkers, and it's their job to repopulate the human race, right? That's the general idea. So they have to figure out, based on the profession, I guess, generally just depending on the person, they have to figure out who should get into the bunker and who should not, right? That's the question. And they have to use logic and reasoning to do this, aside from, well, instead of emotion, because the goal is repopulate the human race, not save your best friend from dying in the apocalypse, right? So that's a cool concept. I'm on board, right? But there were a couple things in the movie that were pretty bad. So it was weird. Before I get into it, I might spoil things. So if you plan on watching this movie, and apparently it's on Netflix. I didn't watch it on Netflix. I don't pay for that shit. But apparently it's on Netflix. So if you want to watch it, go ahead. And you probably shouldn't. No, that was smart. Probably shouldn't listen to this video, because I'm gonna be probably spoiling a hell of a lot. But basically, the movie, it starts out pretty good. I enjoyed the beginning of the movie. It was, so the beginning of the movie, they essentially were, I mean, it established the relationship between two of the main characters, and it established that, you know, they were in this philosophy class, and they're just a whole bunch of students and shit, and it's their final task before graduation, right? They're all seniors and shit. And it's the final thing that they're doing before graduation, and the teacher is like using the you know, the classic antagonist teacher methods in order to force the kids to partake in this thought experiment. Wow. By being like, I'll fail you. And then, in fairness, since it's a philosophy class, he could, I guess. But, you know, that sort of thing. So that's kind of, I don't know, campy. The main draw of the movie for me is that it tackled the idea, like, it tackled the idea of what do you do in the apocalypse, right? It didn't tackle it the best, but it did tackle it. And it was very weird because the beginning of the movie, they went over a bunch of other famous thought experiments, which didn't really tie in to the Apocalypse one. They were just examples. It was like, hey, look, I read up on philosophy before, before writing this movie. At least that's what it felt like to me. And they are very interesting. That was incredible. Interesting thought experiments. They are, I don't remember the names of them at all, but it's basically the idea of if there are 5 people tied to a track, right? And there's a train coming. And you are an observer of this train and these people being tied to the track. If you do nothing, 5 people will get run over by a train. However, there's a switch that you can flip. Now, flipping the switch will change the track of the train, and instead of killing 5 people, there is 1 person tied to the... I don't want it. I don't want it. There is 1 person tied to the track on the track that you are flipping to, right? So the question is, do you do it? And it's a very interesting thought experiment because it also kind of tackles how it's interesting. I read something about it. I'm sort of forgetting it, so I apologize. But it essentially is a way that you can kind of figure out stuff about like sociological, or not what am I saying? Sociopathic. There we go. I was like, what am I doing? Sociopathic tendencies. Because what's very interesting is that somebody who is a sociopath is going to pretty much always, you know, flip the switch. A lot of people would flip the switch, in fact. At least theoretically flip the switch. If it actually came down to the literal flipping of the switch, a lot of people probably would just run away and like go into their corner or something and cry about it, because a lot of people are very fragile in a situation like that. But then you extend this thought experiment further, right? The second situation is literally the same from if you're talking about like, oh yeah, just let 1 person die to save 5. That's an easy decision, right? If your thought process is that, then this one is exactly the same. However, the difference is, instead of flipping a switch, there is a fat person, right? An overweight person that you can throw onto the tracks to derail the train, saving the 5 people. Would you do it? And that's where it gets difficult. Somebody who's a sociopath would probably do that, because they have no remorse for literally killing somebody. Now, either way, it is murder. That is true. That's the conclusion that has been reached a number of times. And like the movie, it sets up this very interesting sort of situation, right? The movie sets this up by covering those thought experiments and, you know, doing stuff like that. There were more thought experiments, but I'm failing to remember them. That's the one that stuck out to me. So it starts out by the kids like reciting these thought experiments, right? And it's like, oh, this might be a super nice, a super like smart movie, and that'd be cool. And then they go into this apocalyptic scenario where they have their class, and every person has a card that describes their person, you know, their character in the apocalypse. And outside of the card, they are the same as they are in real life, as the literal human being, right? And so they are tasked with deciding who is going to go into the bunker to attempt to save the human race, right? I fucking hate this room. And again, very interesting in concept. Oh my god. This is a nightmare. Very interesting concept. Not the greatest execution in my book. Because the problem pretty much immediately arose in the first scenario, because they do it 3 times. In the first scenario, you know, it's like, hey, the teacher is in it as well, but you don't know anything about him. He's the wild card, right? That's fine and dandy. I'm sure in a situation like this, if it were to exist in real life, which, I mean, would it really exist in that fashion? Probably not. But if it were to exist in real life, there would probably be some number of wild cards. And so he's like, I'm the wild card. You have to choose whether, you know, I stay in the bunker or not based on what you don't know about me. Oh, that makes it difficult. Okay. And in the first scenario, they make the decision to essentially let him die, because in this hypothetical, they are on a strict time limit before the radiation reaches them, and he takes too long, and they're like, all right, well, goodbye, and lock him out of the bunker. And then this is where the movie gets weird to me, because whatever. It gets weird to me because it stops being like this hypothetical thought experiment. Like, the whole time in these hypotheticals, they have very, very, very well done visuals, and it is essentially as if they are literally playing this out as if it were not hypothetical, right? But that's where it bothers me, because it's very bizarre, because they kind of blur the line between the reality and the hypothetical. Not in a good way, though. Like, it seems like they are, instead of it just being a thought experiment, they make it seem like these people are literally having this happen, right? When people are voted out of the bunker, they, like, you know, start crying, and there's this part where it's like, they asked me to kill them to put them out of their misery. You know, so they didn't want to get torn apart by the radiation. And it's like, I mean, I'm sure if this literally was happening, that probably would happen. You know, I'm sure that would be a thing that people would want. But it's not. It's a thought experiment, you know? So it's so weird that they, like, blurred the line there. And, like, and then when they had him, because he hypothetically took too long to get to the bunker, and so they decided to lock him out of it, he then was still alive, like, days later in this hypothetical, alive enough to write on a piece of paper that he's the only one who knew what the exit code was for the bunker. And, like, it went a little downhill from there, I think. Because it felt so unnecessary, right? Like, it could have been like, well, you made the wrong decision, because I'm the only one who knew the exit code, so you're fucked. Okay, next attempt, right? But instead, they, like, continued playing out this hypothetical as if it were real, and showing the characters have, like, emotional breakdowns. And one of the main characters, her name is Petra, I think. She, like, has this, like, emotional moment where she continually goes back to the bunker, right? The bunker door where he's dead, and used his dying breath to write down on a piece of paper that he's the one who knew the exit code instead of writing down the exit code. And then they discuss that, which is reasonable, because that, you know, to me it makes no goddamn sense that he would use his dying breath to say, haha, get fucked, idiots, you don't know the exit code. And then, you know, Petra's having, like, this emotional breakdown, and then it, like, continues going, and then at the end of it all, sweet, I'm gonna kill myself with this. At the end of it all, it's like, oh, let's see if we actually need an exit code. You know, they didn't see if they needed an exit code, which is reasonable in that sort of situation. You're not gonna be like, well, I wonder if we need an exit code, and then click the button to open the door, and then they'll die, right? So they wait until the radiation is supposedly over and they're, like, out of resources and stuff. They try leaving, and then it's like, need an exit code, right? And then they spend the rest of the time having more emotional breakdowns in this hypothetical, and then after their emotional breakdowns, they start eating, like, the pet turtles, and then one of the guys dies from a brain aneurysm, so they eat him, and it's, like, very... It's weird. Because it's supposed to just be a hypothetical, but it's not. That's what I don't like. And then they do the thought experiment again. They keep the guy, And like, I don't know, the second time that they run it, it's much more reasonable, I'd say. The problem is the third time they run it, I got real mad. Like, real mad. Because the third time they run it, instead of it being a question about logic and, you know, figuring out who can live to further the human race and blah blah blah, it's like, it turns into some preachy mess where it's like, God, it was so frustrating to watch. Basically, let me try and describe it. And I don't think that it was baseless. Let me clarify that. I don't think that this chunk of what I'm calling preachiness is baseless. I'm gonna do the smart thing, by the way. Thanks for pointing this out in the previous episode, guys. I'm an idiot, so we're gonna fix everything right now. But yeah, so I don't think it's baseless, but it just felt overly, I don't know, overdone. Undercooked, overdone, right? As an idea. Even though that's physically impossible, so that metaphor immediately breaks down. But what I'm saying is, basically, in the third attempt of the thought experiment, what they did was, Petra, who is like the best student, supposedly. Whoops. Who's the best student, supposedly, has like an A+. That's never been done before in this department, blah, blah, blah. You know, cliched best student, putting her grade on the line for this thing, right? She tackles it all herself. She's the only one making decisions, and, you know, then the teacher is asking her about all these decisions, and he's like, oh, I wouldn't have done this, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, as she's explaining her reasoning, he's like, you know, A+, A-, B+, you know, classic cliche bullshit. I'm gonna reroll. Nice. Yeah, classic cliche bullshit that's just so unnecessary. But it's there, I guess, so whatever. Can't really avoid it at this point. And then she chooses, the people she chooses are not based on logic, but well, it's kind of based on logic, but it's like, she chooses people that aren't essential, right? They don't have essential skill sets to further the human race, right? And instead she chose people that would keep them, you know, sane in the bunker and shit. And then at the end, at the very end, that was smart of me. Oh, Jesus Christ. At the very end of the movie, there's like this, in this hypothetical situation, because in this circumstance, the teacher in the hypothetical, being the wild card, saw it as a great opportunity to be upset that, like, she chose the way she did, and because he hypothetically went into the bunker before anyone else, raided the armory to get guns, and then she hypothetically stole the gun and the ammo. Yeah. What exactly happened? I guess she stole the gun. And then, oh yeah, that's right. And then he was looking for the gun, hypothetically, in his bag, and then hypothetically couldn't find it, so then hypothetically she handed the gun back to him and was like, I'm gonna give this to you, and you're gonna leave. And then he hypothetically tried to shoot the gun at the people that she chose, because hypothetically the human race would have been doomed. Hypothetically. Speaking, of course. And then hypothetically the gun had no bullets, so hypothetically she handed him the bullets, which she hypothetically also stole. At which point they hypothetically had a hypothetical conversation about how he would leave and let them live the way that they lived. So then he hypothetically found a hypothetical cave that hypothetically he could go deep enough to hypothetically escape the hypothetical radiation, so he could hypothetically have a very explosive moment later in the hypothetical situation where he came back and tried to kill them because hypothetically the bombs didn't drop in the hypothetical location that they were hypothetically at. So then hypothetically a bomb dropped and didn't explode, and then hypothetically the other main character, who was well, no, he was literally bad in that class in philosophy. I can't. I have to resist. So he wasn't hypothetically bad in the class, he was literally bad in the class. But he was the one who walked up to the hypothetical bomb and hypothetically put his hand on the hypothetical bomb at a big red button, which, you know, might be a cliche in itself. And then hypothetically was about to hit it, and then hypothetically the teacher came back with the gun that he was hypothetically given for some reason, and he hypothetically survived a year in a fucking cave. Hypothetically, I suppose. Well, that sucks. And then he was about to hypothetically shoot that main character with his hypothetical gun that he was hypothetically... Now that word's starting to feel like not a word. But my point is, he's about to like shoot him, and then they have that incredibly cliche moment where all the characters like step in front of him to like block the bullets, and then he clicks the button and then they all die in an explosion. And I guess the moral of the story is supposed to be like, I don't know. I don't fucking know. I didn't glean anything from that shit. It felt very pretentious and preachy, and I hated it. But I don't know. Overall, the movie, at the very least, it got me thinking. It raised good questions. It didn't answer them at all, but it raised good questions. So like I'd give it like overall maybe a 5 out of 10, honestly. Median rating. Not great. Pretty mediocre movie, but definitely not the worst movie I've ever seen. So there you go. That's my thoughts on that movie. I thought it could have been way better than what it ended up being, which is the part that's most difficult for me to deal with. Because I really do think that, fuck off, that it had potential to be really good. And then it wasn't, so it was bad. But it's still an interesting movie. I mean, I don't know. I think what would have been better, I think, so my biggest, let me articulate a little better my biggest issues. I kind of just had a very brief elaboration, right, and then kind of moved on. But basically, my biggest issue is that the general... So glad I have Ipecac. I mean, I could also just have Rough up there, but anyway. Also, my game is having some frame issues. Oh well. I'm Guppy. We did it. So if they wanted to make it drama, right? If they wanted to make the movie drama. Oh, and also there was like a teacher wants to bang the star student cliche subplot going the whole time or whatever. That was frustrating. But if they wanted to have the drama part, they could have made it literally happen, right? It didn't need to be a philosophy class. They could have had it literally be apocalypse. It's their goal to figure it out. That's it. Have the drama, right? They could have done that. They didn't. So instead, they have a complete hypothetical situation, right? Completely just crafted for the point of thinking about it, right? And then in it, they have drama that would actually erupt, which is an important thing to think about with a thought experiment, but the problem is that it actually, like, happened, right? It wasn't just like, well, I think they would, you know, get cabin fever or something, right? It wasn't that. It was, they actually fucking got cabin fever, I guess. I don't know. I mean, they didn't actually get cabin fever. They had there was a plan in the bunker to stop that from happening, but. So it felt kind of fragmented in that way, how it was, like, it wanted to be a drama sort of movie, but instead of just being that, it decided that it also wanted to be a smart movie. And by trying to be both at the same time, like, it could have been a smart movie and a drama at the same time, but in the way that it was packaged, that really wasn't possible, right? And as such, it just kind of fell short on kind of both aspects. Like, it didn't do a very good job of being a drama movie, and it also didn't do a great job of being what it is on the surface, which is kids in a philosophy class thinking about this crazy thought experiment. So, I don't know. They didn't separate reality and the hypothetical situation, like, at all. That's my problem. I hate that I was stupid enough to fucking pick up Parasite. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the movie After the Dark. Whoops. So like I said, overall, definitely could have been a good movie. Definitely fell short in a lot of ways. Alright, to Isaac. By the way, thank you so much for the movie recommendation. I mean, if you guys have more movie recommendations, I had another one on Twitter that, actually, let me pull it up right now. I had one. Whoops! That shouldn't have been on that monitor at all, actually. War Games. I should watch War Games. That's the other one that I was recommended on Twitter. So, I mean, if you have movie recommendations, feel free to, like, leave them either in the comments or on Twitter or whatever. I like watching movies. And you know what? It's a great talking topic for these videos, I think, personally. Maybe some of you guys don't like movies, and to that I say, what the fuck? Wow, I really didn't expect it to be this branch, but alright. Nah, but if you don't like movies, that's, I mean, that's cool, but I really like movies. I also still need to watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, actually. I gotta watch that shit. Oh, Jesus. I don't want to watch it, but I gotta watch it. I mean, what is interesting to me about 2001: A Space Odyssey is that it is a movie my brother fucking loves, right? He thinks it's incredible. But why that's interesting to me is that I have now seen people draw comparisons between 2001: A Space Odyssey and Prometheus. Like, a lot of comparisons, and I think that's very reasonable. At least the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now, I don't know the most about 2001, but from what I do know about it, it seems entirely possible and entirely reasonable to compare the two movies, right? So, the main thing is, in the book of 2001: A Space Odyssey, it has, like, all the answers, right? It's got answers and shit. But who is the director of 2001? Was it Kubrick? I think so. So he made, like, the executive decision, that was incredibly smart, to essentially, like, remove the answers from the movie and make it more of a thought-provoking thing. And again, I haven't seen it, so I actually don't know exactly how true this is, but it seems true enough to me. I knew I had to go through the fucking poop room. Ah, Jesus. Alright, well. Just go. Alright. And Prometheus, although it doesn't tackle anything quite as huge as 2001, it's a very similar movie. Again, I haven't seen 2001, so I can't really verify this. I'm mostly speaking from what I've heard other people talk about. But the comparisons come in the fact that they are both like thought-provoking space adventure sort of movies, right? But the thing is, what is hated, why people hate Prometheus, myself included, is that there are no answers, right? Shitload of questions, no answers. Not even there. Like, there's so many questions in it, right, that there is no way they'd even answer them all in the second movie, which is confirmed at this point. Unless they made the entire movie just some dude lecturing you on the new mythos that Ridley Scott created for Prometheus, right? That's the only way that they would do it. But 2001: A Space Odyssey is praised for having no answers. So it's very bizarre to, you know, see that sort of thing, and especially seeing it in my brother, how he loves 2001 and says Prometheus is fucking garbage. So I don't know. I'll have to see it and I'll figure it out. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, so you can see more Isaac in the future. And maybe I'll talk about movies more. I like movies. Movies are cool. But yeah, that's all I got for this one. I'll see you guys in the next one.